Hello and welcome to the latest installment of GBN America with me, Patrick Christie. And we have a very special guest today. It's Kash Patel, who's the author and former Chief of Staff to the Acting Secretary of State for Defence. Also, in case you're wondering what some of that rattling noise is, it's quite cool actually, because Kash is on the Trump bus at the moment, hurtling through Pennsylvania, winning everywhere they go. So, Kash, thank you very much for joining us today.
It's so lovely to be on your program. Thank you.
Well, good luck in Pennsylvania as well. I hope you don't get derailed by a speed bump or anything like that. But let's talk about a very, very serious issue. We have problems with illegal immigration in this country. You have that problem on steroids. And there are gangs, violent street gangs from Venezuela expanding into the US, especially in places like New York, Colorado, Texas. Could you just talk us through the scale of this problem, please? How bad is it and what's really going on?
It's horrific. And look, American politics, especially during an election season, would talk about border states, like my home state in Nevada or Arizona or Texas or a piece of California. There are no more border states. Every state is a border state because, unfortunately, tragedy from illegal immigrant crimes has ravaged places from New York to Maine to Idaho to Michigan and everywhere in between. We're talking about the deaths tragically, of the Lake and Rileys of the world, and the raping of young children by illegal immigrants. So they have savaged our community, not just with those crimes, but with the horrific CCP fentanyl that's pouring into our streets. And so this whole concept of a border state is now just a border nation. And Kamala Harris has failed to secure it single-handedly. And now that's why I think people are turning up in droves for President Trump on this issue.
I do find it remarkable that the one thing that conceivably she should be taking responsibility for, i.e. the border, is probably the biggest issue at this election, and I think she's done worse. But look, please talk to me a little bit about some of the crimes, because it is unpalatable for a lot of people to talk about. And people very easily get called a racist for daring to say that some of these people do stuff. But what kind of crimes are we talking about?
Yeah, look, I'll just preface it that I'm the son of lawful immigrants to this country who waited in line and came here, just like so many great other Americans who have assimilated to the society in England and the UK do the same thing. And that's what we want. We don't want a handout. And what we're seeing is, you're right, it's really disturbing to have to tell our communities that an 8-year-old was raped by an illegal gang member. It's really disturbing to tell our communities that a 12-year-old was given CCP fentanyl and died from that overdose. And it's really tragic to talk about horrific rape of young women and the elderly that is going on in almost every state by an illegal immigrant. Now, we're not saying they're all bad, but there's too many that are, and they need to be stopped.
So Trump said they're not sending their best. He was right about that, wasn't he?
Yeah, look, we have Tren de Aragua, the Venezuelan gang, living in Aurora, Colorado. We've got the rise of MS-13 again. We took them head on in the Trump administration the first term by going down to Mexico and making sure we implemented stiff penalties and prison sentences. And President Trump has to come up with new ways, and I believe that he's doing so correctly, saying drug kingpins should be subject to the death penalty. Illegal immigrants that commit murder should be subject to automatic life, if not the death penalty. And those that rape children, especially illegal immigrants, may be subject to the death penalty. We need to roll out these programs and initiatives to deter criminals, because right now, there's no deterrence. There's a reward. You come here, you get a Visa and MasterCard and a stay at a Four Seasons, a driver's license, a grocery store that's paid for you, and your stay is infinite.
Yeah, I mean, it's bonkers. Apparently, at the moment, there are 2,000 migrants, a group of about 2,000 migrants left southern Mexico, aiming to reach the US, amid concerns that US immigration policy might change after the upcoming presidential election. Are you seeing a rush now for people trying to cross that border before Trump possibly gets elected?
Unfortunately, we are seeing a surge, but also, unfortunately, our enemies have utilized this porous border for 4 years. So let me just give you a statistic that our DHS secretary and FBI director went to Congress with just the other month. They said they have 50 known terrorist affiliates that they encountered at the border. They illegally entered the United States of America, and our FBI and DHS do not know where they are today. That was their admission from the Biden-Harris administration. Now, I believe that number is way higher. So whether there is a surge or not, they're already here. we've already got, even if you want to believe the low end number of 10 million. And to get them out is going to take a big lift. But, having run the Department of Defense for President Trump as the chief of staff there, we have the capabilities to do that. And he has the wasta and the brilliance to say we have to safeguard our streets and our communities. And by doing so, we need to remove illegals.
How does that work? Yeah, unless you have enforced repatriation, mass deportation. Is that not going to be something that a lot of people are going to try and hold up in the courts? Is that not a lot of something that human rights lawyers are going to try and stop? Is that not something that you need some of these countries to actually consent to?
Sure, look, it's not going to be easy, but you need a commander-in-chief who's going to implement it. One, having run Operation Warp Speed, the Department of Defense of the United States of America is the largest company on Earth. We dwarf Amazon. Our logistical capabilities, including air and ground transportation, are second to none. We have that ability. So the logistics are taken care of. Your issue is spot on. The law says illegal immigrants have committed a crime when they came here illegally, and they must be deported. We're just ignoring the law right now. The U.S. Constitution is being violated. So there may be court measures taken if and when President Trump wins and he issues this initiative. But also the way you get with other countries is, America is the powerhouse of the world. We can raise tariffs. We can cut off aid. We can do a lot of things where we assist other countries in helping themselves by forcing them to take back their own prisoners and put them in prison there.
Yeah, it's also about leading the way, right? I mean, and I hate the fact that a lot of other countries, mine included, do often look for America's legal way, but that's the way the world works, unfortunately. And, if you guys started getting tougher on it, maybe that would open the doors for us to get a bit tougher on it as well. Is it as stark to say that actually the people of the West depends on it? You've got a migrant crisis in Europe, which I fear is, and the consequences of that, coupled with absolute record levels of legal immigration, by the way, are stark. But do you think that unless this gets sorted out for you in America in the next 5 years, that actually the future of America is very, very different?
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right to point out the global interconnectedness of this issue. And we want legal immigration. We allow 1 million legal immigrants into the United States alone every year. That is extremely generous. And we want to continue that. We want to grow that in a lawful manner. But as goes the United States, so goes so many Western civilized nations. So if we make it that illegal immigration is the way forward, I see Western Europe and Eastern Europe. I see Southeast Asia and other developed nations in Japan and everywhere else falling fate to the same cataclysmic results of these situations. I don't know a single one of those nations, if a teenager was raped or an elderly citizen was murdered or a child was abused and overdosed with crime by an illegal immigrant, that they would say, okay, that's fine, we're just going to keep going. Only here under Kamala Harris has that become a popular voting rally.
Yeah, absolutely astonishing. You're absolutely right. We do have very similar conversations here in our country as well when you see this catalogue of crimes. And the answer to it for a lot of people on the left seems to be, we want more of the same. And I cannot get my head around that, because surely the answer should be, let's stop this. Let's do everything we possibly can to stop it. So the general election, the presidential election, I should say, is happening very, very soon. Not far away now at all. You're in Pennsylvania. Where do you think Trump's going to win big? I've just seen a stat that suggested he's way ahead when it comes to the Latino vote, for example. What are your predictions for how much of a victory or otherwise this is going to be for Trump?
I'm not the political genius. I'm the national security guy, but I'll just tell you what I see. President Trump's policies are resonating across all communities because he's not speaking to the brown and black and yellow community or this community or that community. He's speaking to everyone as Americans and saying, we're going to win this thing together. And I think that ripple effect is showing up not just here in Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, North Carolina, and other swing states, but all across the country. So I'm glad those numbers are going up. But here's my message to America who wants to restore our constitutional republic. Don't stop. It's election season. Bank the vote, get out there and register, and take your friends and colleagues and people you don't know to vote and run through the echo of the whistle on November 5th.
Yeah, look, just one last one with you, please, Kash. Well, I've got you. You're obviously you're the security guy. I can't help but fear for Trump, and we see these assassination attempts. Look, from an outsider to your country, we have a knife crime problem. You guys have a heck of a lot of guns, right? And I am very, very worried about that. A lot of people are. Look, does he make it to election day? Does he survive long after election day? Or is someone going to try and get him?
Donald Trump is the most resilient warrior I have ever seen. I've known special forces colleagues. I have known titans in the industry and some of the toughest SOBs on planet Earth. They pale in comparison to Donald Trump's resolve. So I'm glad he has the security he needs now. Tragically, it took 2 assassination attempts to get there. President Trump's not going to bend the knee, and neither are we. And there's nothing wrong with saying helping Americans first and then helping the rest of the world later. It's not racist. We want our country safe, and we want to help our allies, especially in the UK and Europe.
Thank you very much. Well, look, Kash, great to speak to you. Thank you so much for your time today. I will leave you to the delights of that Trump battle pass, and I hope to talk to you again very, very soon. All the best, my good man. Look after yourself, and say hello to the big guy from us as well. That's Kash Patel, their author, former chief of staff, the acting secretary of